Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show, a show that focuses on top real estate professionals who specialize in different niches of real estate. My name is Ben Kogut. Join me as we dive deep into the professional and personal lives of the experts of the real estate industry. Welcome to the Real Estate Niche Show. I'm your host, Ben Kogut. Today, I have a friend of mine, Nick Hakim, is here. He is the co-founder and CEO of Pioneer Communities, which is a leading owner and operator of manufactured housing communities. Since he started in late 2018, almost 36 months ago, so 3 years ago, they've already acquired 1,400 units and another 700 units scheduled to close before the end of 2021. Unbelievable. Nick is responsible for everything from monitoring and maintaining Pioneer's robust pipeline of new acquisitions to the oversight of their capital improvement plans, everything soup to nuts at Pioneer Communities. He's born and raised in New York City, currently residing in Charlotte, North Carolina. Nick, thank you for coming on the Real Estate Niche Show. Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Ben. I'm excited to chat about our experience launching Pioneer and our relationship and share some more about it with your listeners.
Awesome, brother. Well, I'm just so inspired and impressed by what you've been able to create at such a young age. Would you mind sharing with us how old you are?
I am 28 years old, coming up quickly approaching 29 though. December 27th, I'll be 29.
Okay, unbelievable. So you were 25, 26 when you started this company.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit. How and why did you decide to start this company?
Sure. So I sort of grew up in the real estate space, as you know, sort of following my dad's footsteps. He's what I like to call a real estate entrepreneur. So he does a little bit of everything: brokerage, development, some landlord tenant work. So property management. So again, I sort of grew up following in his footsteps, learned what I liked and disliked about the business. And, obviously, as a kid coming out of college, I didn't have the capital or relationships to be able to, go out and start acquiring real estate on my own. So really wanted to cut my teeth in the business. And I figured the best place to do that was New York City. So I went and worked for a family office there for about 4 years, where I was responsible for sort of a little bit of everything. I was the right hand man for a guy in New York City, and we acquired multifamily and mixed use properties in and around the 5 boroughs. And again, I was blessed to be in that position because I got to learn a little bit of every side of the business. And after a few years there, I kind of realized that I didn't want to silo myself into the New York City real estate space. I wanted to invest on a national level, and I wanted to do it for myself. So, as a 25-year-old with no mortgage, no car, no kids, no wife, I figured, I've got nothing to lose. Why not, go out and give this a shot? So, I partnered up with my now business partner, Luke, who is in a very similar position in his life. And, that's what we did. We gave it a shot. And 36 months later, here we are.
Incredible. And why the mobile home business?
Good question. So, I think when I first turned 25 in the beginning of 2018, I didn't even know what a mobile home park was. I'd probably passed by them, but had never underwritten one. I had never toured through one. I didn't understand how the business worked. So initially when I left my position and launched Pioneer, we started looking at multifamily properties. We wanted to get into the multifamily game. That was the background that my partner and I both had. And it's just what we knew. But we quickly realized that, the space seemed to be overheated. It was crowded. There's high barriers to entry. It was just not a great space as a beginning investor to build a big portfolio. So we started looking around at other opportunities, and sort of by chance, my dad sent me a listing for a mobile home park that he actually had listed in upstate New York. And he's like, hey, this is an interesting business. You should look at this. I just put this park on the market, and It's been 3 or 4 days and I've got 8 full price offers from, some pretty serious guys. You should check into the space. So I started researching a little bit about it and, found some cool blogs and things online talking about the space, and was quickly just sort of infatuated with the fundamentals of the business. A lot of people describe it as self-storage in the 80s, mostly mom and pop owners, local long-term family owners. You don't have many institutions in the space. And what I think is very, very unique to this asset class is an interesting supply-demand imbalance. So every year, more mobile home communities are actually torn down and redeveloped into a higher and better use than are constructed. So you have diminishing supply and increasing demand. Obviously, most places in the country are facing an affordable housing crisis, and this is the most affordable form of housing on the market. So you've got increasing demand, diminishing supply, which obviously really helps the value of these communities. So we just thought that was super, super interesting. We're sort of hedging our bets against downturns and things, and we're able to provide lots and lots of families with a safe, affordable, clean place to live, which is also a very fulfilling business plan.
It's that all makes perfect sense. And what would you say have been the biggest lessons you've learned in these last 3 years, now that you went from driving by mobile home parks to now owning just about almost over 2,000 here in a hot minute? Mm-hmm. What's been the lessons learned?
I think the biggest lesson learned is, we're always sort of just getting started. I mean, sure, we know tons more than we did 3 years ago, but we still know nothing. So we try to live every day, with that in mind. Because if we start waking up thinking we know it all about the business, that's when we're going to start to lose, right? So I think some of the biggest lessons learned are, invest in markets that you want to go to and visit very frequently, because this is a business that requires you to be pretty hands-on, despite most people saying that mobile home parks are a passive investment. They're very much hands-on. So make sure you're investing in areas that you're comfortable visiting all the time and you want to go to. It'll make your day-to-day life much more satisfying. You'll be excited to wake up and go to work every day, because one of the first properties we ever purchased, it's in a relatively small market, but we bought it because it was a great deal. It had great return fundamentals. It was just a great basis. But I'm not excited about going to that market, and because of that, maybe I'm more apt to go spend time at another property versus this one. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned is don't just buy a deal because it's a good deal. Buy a deal because you're excited about the market. You're excited about going there. You're excited about being hands-on. I think that's really important in real estate.
And you are, putting your money where your mouth is. You moved from New York to Charlotte. And so why Charlotte?
So most of the properties that we've purchased are located in the Southeast. So, before we were located in New York City, and we were calling, small town mom and pop owners in the Southeast from, our Manhattan apartment. And, it was cumbersome to be able to hop on a plane, fly down real quick just to meet with somebody to maybe get a deal. Now, if we come across a good opportunity or something that's in a market close to us, we can just hop in the car real quick and be there in 3 or 4 hours. Shake people's hands and meet face to face rather than speaking to them over the phone. I think that's one of our biggest competitive advantages right now is we're not afraid to take the time to go sit with somebody face to face and try to hammer a deal out versus exchanging emails for weeks and phone calls. And most of these, small town owners really appreciate that FaceTime.
Nice. Yeah, we've definitely learned how important it is just to be able to put your hand in someone else's hand and connect. And there's really no substitute for that, especially with Zoom. I mean, it's just totally a wise thing. And so switching back to when you guys find a property, what do you do with it? Like you close on it, and then what's your move?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the opportunity in this space is not so much, return driven. It's also, there's sort of an ethical return on your investment as well. Like, so many of these mom and pop owners aren't real estate people, and it's not their fault that they've let the property fall into disrepair. And that's where the term sort of trailer parks comes from. You have a mom and pop owner that maybe back in the 50s or 60s owned 20 acres, and they moved one trailer in, and before you know it, they had 10, and then after that they moved another 10 in, and suddenly they have 150 units, but they're not real estate operators by trade. Maybe they're running another business. And it just sort of, it sits on the back burner for them. So they don't understand the process of reserves and, normal capital expenditures, things like that. So again, that's where the term trailer park, in my opinion, comes from, is you have these mom and pop owners that don't reinvest back into their communities, and maybe at no fault of their own, they're living off of the income. So they're not willing to reinvest back into the community. So what we like to do is, we want to come in and sort of breathe new life into these communities by, revitalizing, the roads, the infrastructure, providing a cleaner and safer place to live by, like I said, repaving roads, improving the lighting in the communities to make it safer at night. A lot of times we'll go in and we'll understand a little bit better what the demographic makeup of the community is. And if we find that there's a good number of children in the community, we're going to add a playground. We're going to add, a pavilion with picnic tables and things. We'll add a safe bus stop station so that when the kids are waiting for the bus in the morning, they're not out standing in the inclement weather. So there's so many things that are very common in the multifamily space as amenities or just general upkeep that aren't necessarily, upkept the same way in a mobile home community. So we're trying to raise the bar for the mobile home community space in general by setting a standard for amenity spaces and just general improvements to the communities.
That goes to what the name of your company is. You're pioneering communities. It's really an inspiring thing. You're actually making a difference in people's lives and making money along the way, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
and so
very fulfilling.
So, looking forward, where do you think? What are the trends that you're seeing in this business?
So, I think over the last 5 to 10 years, and again, we've only been in this space for 3 years, but just in speaking with other operators that have been involved for much longer than we have, I think what you're seeing today is a huge influx of capital to the space, which is great and bad at the same time. So it's great for the communities because there's tons of capital pouring into them. Improvements are being made. Bad for guys like us because it's really tough for us to find opportunity, and oftentimes we're paying a lot more for these opportunities. Obviously we have to make some sort of money along the way. So a lot of times, unfortunately, those costs can be passed along to the residents. So what I think is very interesting about the space right now is you're seeing a huge increase or improvement in the quality of the home that is being built, which, traditionally, or historically, I should say, mobile homes were, considered a depreciating asset. You'd buy a home for $50,000 and maybe in 20 years it's worth 10. I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. The quality of construction is getting much, much better. And so long as you have that regular upkeep of these homes, you're able to keep these assets much, much longer. So with this influx of capital into the communities and the improving quality of the home stock, we're able to come in and completely transform a community again from a trailer park to we like to call a manufactured housing community, where people are proud to call these places home rather than depressed or sad when they get home at the end of the day because they live in a rundown trailer park. So I think that's the biggest change right now. Another change we're starting to see is just given the affordable housing crisis that's happening in so many of these municipalities. I think you're seeing a lot of local leaders ease up on zoning regulations a little bit and they're starting to understand the value that a mobile home community can bring, in adding supply to an affordable housing stock in a market. So hopefully that translates to more development opportunities down the line. And that's where you'll really be able to build a nice Class A, affordable housing community, which we're excited about.
So are you looking to pivot into more of a development standpoint?
I think eventually we'll certainly start to look at opportunities. I don't think we're at the scale yet to be able to handle developments, but in the next 24 to 36 months, I think that's definitely one of our goals.
Nice. And you talk quite a bit about investors and raising capital, and maybe give us a little bit of insight. How have you gone? I mean, you guys are so young. Tell us more about how you've been able to raise capital.
So very early on, it was difficult, because again, when we started, I had never heard of a mobile home park. My business partner really hadn't. So we put our first property under contract, and we figured, okay, we'll just go to a couple friends and family, and we'll try to syndicate this equity raise. I think we were raising about $1.5 million on the first deal, and today that's nothing. But then it was this huge task to go out and raise that. And the number one thing or question that we got back was, how do you know this is going to work? Because again, we had no idea what a mobile home park was. They were questioning our assumptions. And we really sold them not on the property or the opportunity, but on ourselves. So we got them to believe in us, that we were willing to do whatever it takes to make this first property succeed. And we put our money where our mouth was. We ended up raising the money, but the day we closed, or actually the day before we closed, my business partner and I moved down to the first community, and we moved into a mobile home, and we lived there for I think it was coming up on, I think it was 8 to 12 weeks, something like that. We'd go back and forth to New York periodically, but it was humbling. It was very, very humbling. But I specifically remember a couple mornings where we were sitting in this mobile home, like trying to find more opportunities, working on management for this property. There was no heat, we didn't have heat. We had these little space heaters, and my business partner and I are sitting on the couch across from one another, wrapped in blankets, freezing cold. And we were like, what have we gotten ourselves into? But looking back, I wouldn't have done it any other way. It taught us so much about management and operations. And now when we go to raise money, if somebody questions an expense line item, or, how do you know this is going to work? Or it's like, hey, we've done that. We've lived in a community side by side, shoulder to shoulder with our residents. We understand what these people are looking for. And I think that went a long way in helping us raise capital. So now our process is more so, we like to demonstrate in our offering memorandums, the successes that we've had at the properties we have in our existing portfolio, but also some of the failures. Just be very open and honest with our investors, and they appreciate the candor. And I think it's helped us, in the syndication space. But the majority of our investors are comprised of high net worth individuals, or friends, family, that kind of thing, and we're starting to scale that up at this point.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about a failure or something that didn't go according to plan, and how you overcame that?
Sure. So I'd say one of the biggest things that went wrong at a property of ours down in it was down in Georgia, one of the first properties we bought. And I think we were just a little bit we were a little overzealous on what we thought the market was like. We saw this burgeoning, large southern market, and we were super excited about it, and honestly still are. But I think we projected rent growth and utility recaptures a little bit faster than we should have. And it's easy to get caught up in Excel and pass expenses through to a resident, but especially when you're in the middle of a pandemic, or you're face to face with these residents, and you have to serve them with a rent increase notice that's $25 a month when their total rent is $250 a month. It's a monumental increase for them. So it's a tough thing to pass along to a resident. So we ended up scaling that back. And obviously that affects returns, that, it just sort of waterfalls down from there. So I think that was, a mistake that we learned early on. Was it's not as simple as just going in and erasing rents. It's really not. Number two is it always costs more than you think it's going to. So in terms of capital improvements and stuff, I'd say in the last, 5 or 6 deals we've bought, no matter what our capital improvement budget is, we always add $100,000 on top of that, because there's always going to be a delay or a rise in cost, especially in a market like we're in today with all these COVID-related supply chain issues and labor costs and labor shortages. You always want to have more than you need.
Good lessons to learn along the way, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's pivot a little bit and kind of talk about, what you see. So we've talked a little bit about trends. We've talked a little bit, about what you guys are doing. I'd like to know a little bit more about like where more along the trends part. Like, I have this thought that maybe the mobile home park is going to be consolidated even further. And so I'm just sort of curious, like, is that your plan? Do you plan to roll a bunch of these up and maybe exit to like a big Blackstone or one of the bigger boys, or like what, like,
so it's
I don't know.
It's an interesting question. And the answer is I don't know yet. It's funny, my business partner, Luke, and I were just having this conversation this morning. It's like, we need to sit down and really hash out where we think this company is going to be in 5 years, because we've changed so much in 36 months. Where do we think we're going to be 36 months from now? And that vision is probably much different than we initially had thought, and that's okay. But you need to be successful. In my opinion, everybody on your team needs to be on the same page in terms of what the vision is. So right now, what I'd say is, in working with a couple of our sort of role models in the industry, some of the largest owners in the mobile home park space, I think we've sort of learned or at least began to emulate what we'd like to be. And I think that means, becoming a top 5 operator of mobile home communities and acquiring somewhere in the range of, 8 to 12,000 units over the next couple of years.
Wow.
If we roll up and sell a portion of the properties to a larger firm and exit, I think that's one scenario. But we're building this portfolio, with the thought that we never sell these things. We only want to buy a deal that we're comfortable owning forever. And I think, you make decisions a lot differently when you're making them for the long term. So we always try to keep that in mind. So, right now we're not structured as a fund. We don't have any sort of horizon, investment horizon or anything like that. We're buying deals because they're good deals and we want to own them long term.
Nice. Yeah. Long-term mentality is definitely how we approach our investments at H2H as well. So I think we see eye to eye on the value in investing in that way.
Yeah.
Anyways, pivoting, let's talk a little bit. I gave you 4 questions that I like to throw out there. And so we'll see what comes out of this. So, Nick, what was the first or the worst job that you ever had?
Sure. So the first job that I ever had, it was probably also the worst, but mainly because I was working for family. So my family was involved in the catering business for a number of years, and this catering facility was located right up the street from my house. And we do weddings and events and things like that. And it was really tough because I was working for family, and there's no excuses. And you had to show up for work, obviously. So my first job starting there was as the dishwasher in the kitchen. And you were typically the last person there. So a wedding would wrap up at, call it 10 o'clock. It would take, call it an hour and a half to get all the plates and dishes and silverware into the kitchen. And then you're washing them for an hour and a half. So before you know it, you're sitting there washing dishes, you're covered in hot water and bleach and all these other cleaning materials. And before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and most of the servers, the chefs have gone home, and you're sitting there drying silverware until 2 a.m. for minimum wage. It was my first job. It was tough, but it taught me, the value of hard work, and that, nobody's going to thank you for doing your job just because you did it. It was sort of a thankless position. But then I was able to sort of, graduate from that eventually up to serving as sort of like a busboy, and then eventually acted as a sous chef, and then eventually a bartender. So I got to go through the whole sort of hospitality sector in one business, which was a great experience.
Look at you now. That's great. And then another question, different question, of course, is how does Nick Hakim invest in himself?
So, interesting question. So I was recently asked, it was probably like a year and a half or 2 years ago, what would you go back and tell your younger self? 18-year-old Nick. And, I was the type of student in school where, I got by. I was not a straight A student by any means. I like to spend most of my time outside, or, playing sports, or, spending time with my dad and his business. And I never really spent the time like sitting down, reading books and, just studying for the fun of it. And, I think that's what I would have told myself as an 18-year-old Nick, like start reading books about what you're interested in. So about 18 months ago, I took that advice to heart and started, making a point to read much more. So I've been doing that recently, and, it's helped me personally. It's helped me professionally. It's been great. And another thing is, I think travel is an extremely, extremely important thing to do for yourself. It gives you perspective. It sort of rounds you out as a person. And lastly, I would say physical fitness. My business partner has gotten me into a crazy routine where, we go to the gym together most mornings before work. I'm going to try to get a good workout in. And then, we typically break up our day by doing a run in the afternoon, just 2-3 miles, but to get your mind off of work. And then we come back into the office for the night shift. So yeah, I would say reading, travel, and physical fitness.
Great. I love all three of those. And how does Nick Hakim invest in the community or the world?
Sure. So growing up, I was very, very active. I'm a big outdoors person. Just growing up, I was never the kid, sitting in front of the TV. I wasn't into video games. So I spent a lot of time outside, and I was very active in the Boy Scouts. I'm proud to say that I am an Eagle Scout. I made it all the way through.
Not surprised. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love giving back to that organization because it gave me so much growing up. The life skills, the safety and first aid skills, the outdoors skills, the community participation skills. It really made me into the man that I am today. And, so I love giving back through that organization because of that.
That's awesome. And how does Nick define the word success?
That's a really tough question. But, I think for a long time, and you and I were talking about this before the show, like 36 months ago, we just got started. And I think my definition of success then was much, much different. If I 36 months ago looked at myself today, I would have been like, wow, he's so successful. But today, I still feel like I'm not successful. So success to me is being happy with where you are at any given day, no matter, what's ahead of you, what's behind you, living in the moment and being totally okay with that, and understanding that, you're capable of doing whatever you want, and not constantly living in the future or in the past. So success is mastering the art of being okay with where you're at today.
Beautiful. Great quote there. Cool. Well, we're gonna start winding things down a little bit. Maybe share with everybody how they might be able to reach out to you.
Sure. So I'm on the phone all the time. I'm happy to give my cell phone number out. You can link it in the show notes or something. Give me a call anytime, 845-901-4872. Love chatting over the phone. I'm active on Instagram. You can link my email address in the show notes as well. Again, love talking to people about life, real estate, mobile home parks, whatever it may be. I'm always happy to chat.
And also your website?
Our website, pioneercommunities.com. It is actually undergoing a big revamp right now, and we should launch that hopefully in mid-December. So excited for you all to see that.
Awesome. Was there anything else you want to share with the audience?
It's a good question. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned in the last 36 months, and again, I really know nothing about what we're doing or real estate in general. I'm still sort of consider myself a sponge. I'm still learning so much, but if you can dream it, you can do it. When I quit my job in New York and decided to go out on my own, it was the scariest thing that I've ever done. And I wanted to give up a million times. I can't believe where we got to today, how quickly we did. But anybody can do it. It just takes willpower and determination. And that would be my 2 cents.
Well, I can't wait to see where Pioneer is a year from now, 3 years from now. I mean,
hopefully we're
possibilities. Come on. We're cheering for you. We're here to support you and just always looking forward to seeing you at all the Society of Exchange Counselor meetings and getting to learn from all those, all the wisdom in that room is just inspiring as well. So on that note, we'll wind it down. Thank you again for being on the Real Estate Niche Show. Thanks everybody for listening. Please share this with other people. Hit the subscribe button, like it, all that good stuff. Reach out to Nick. And on that note, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Real Estate Niche Show. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me or the show, you can follow me on Instagram at Ben Kogut and at The Real Estate Niche Show. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.